Never mind.
I wonder if I'm supposed to.
Just a couple of minutes.
The Teason Chiropractic, they come talk to you?
That one.
Teason Chiropractic.
Turn the bell building.
Is that the one that's near?
It's above the Mission Bell.
The bell block building.
Possibly. They may have came and talked to somebody.
Yes. I know they talked to Chris, but I didn't know if they came and talked to you. They're wanting to do a conditional use permit on a residential.
Oh, up near the hospital, right?
First Avenue, yep.
Yeah. I think that's gonna work out just fine.
As a residential. Because it'll save them a whole bunch of money if we do that.
Yeah, they can either do a home-based business.
That's what I was thinking.
Home-based business would be great. They don't have like quite the commercial capacity. I kind of said, when we were talking about it, I was like, well, we'll just have to kind of review it as like a commercial occupation and make sure. And he was like, that's fine. So, but I think home-based business could be great too.
Depends on how we design it, I guess.
And it's the parking company building that usually is the problem, isn't it?
Usually.
Okay, everyone.
But if we supplied it.
It is 5:30. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is April the 13th, 2023. It is 5:30 p.m. and this is the work session of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 on the agenda this evening is a discussion with Attorney Paul Benedetti. He was going to come on. Paul, are you on? Okay, he told me he would link in at 5:30, so hopefully he will show up shortly. He was originally slated, or he has been at a DCI conference, and he was heading back home so that he could make this evening. So I'm hoping that it is convenient for him as well.
Should we make a motion to move to the next one and then?
Well, what we can do is, yeah, we can go forward on that. We can do that and say probably because.
I just want to make sure nobody's waiting. Well, hopefully if he is, he may not be on yet, but if he is waiting, hopefully he'll send us a message or, yeah.
We could go forward. Some of the things that we want to talk with him, I think would be of interest to you, Katie, because we exchanged a little bit of information in the past. So assuming that he'll come on in a couple of minutes, maybe we could move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which moves you up pretty quickly, Joey.
Thank you. That'd be wonderful.
So yeah, if it's within everybody's agreement, we can move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the annual lease that come and do with Earth Mountain Education Farm. It's a piece of property that Urban Renewal has owned for umpteen years. It's a corner of Linden Avenue and White Avenue. They're there, and Earth Mountain has operated the community garden, whatever it is. Want to come forward, Joan?
Yes.
Now, identify yourself just for the record.
Hi, I'm Joni Steiner. I'm the director of Earth Mountain Education Farm. And yeah, we lease a lot with TURA. And we renew that lease annually. It's postmarked in June. So, farming starts now. So that would be something that maybe we could take a look at, and maybe, bringing that annual a little earlier could be possible. I mean, it's fine for me in June, but if we got started and then something happened that you guys wanted to repurpose land or something, then that could be a little bit of a surprise. So we might want to come to this a little bit earlier in the season, like actually February would probably be our best as the nonprofit who leases. So that might be something, that I'm asking is if that could be looked at. We did draw up a new lease just last year, I believe, maybe the year before. Everything, if you have any questions for me, we're on the lot, we're active, we have a lot more gardeners this year than we have ever had because we had a really good revitalization of that garden. You know, Earth Mountain is doing a little better in finances these days, and so ultimately, you know, I have a really great manager who, you know, Mike McDaniel. He's wonderful in this community, and so, you know, having a manager makes a difference. You know, it's gone through a lot of its ups and downs in the years that we've been there since 2005. But it has been used as a community garden every single year. It also does provide food to families, 15 families. I think Mr. Howlett has been a recipient of the food with the CSA, so that helps the project go. All those funds go right back into the project. It's not something that is a profit at all. And we offer a lot of support in education of the farmers. We have a lot of community volunteers. I have 5 high school students who work there each year. So our farm internship is there now. And the kids really love it. They get paid on a stipend-based internship. I would love to have a sign, if you guys have a TURA sign, that says like you do this, like it's your land and like you're there too. That would be lovely, and I would put that there, you know, for recognition for TURA.
We did talk in the past, because it does come at an odd time of the year, and it's difficult for the circumstances, and I think it's 2021, because for a lot of years that lease had been executed and gone forward under the city of Trinidad, because there was just a point in time where TURA was not operational, so it had gone forward. And so a couple of years ago, we had to restructure that lease because the land is owned by Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, and it just happened at an odd time of the year where we finally got it in place. Right. So you know maybe we could rework that if again tonight we're just on the work session to discuss if we want to go forward with it, which I'm assuming that's going to happen. Maybe we can do an addendum to the lease that can take it from its expiration date to maybe the end of. Somewhere you make it where it's a part that renews, where it doesn't hit you, say, okay, planting season here, and we don't have a lease. Yeah. So we can discuss that. So if you're agreeable to that, we can recreate the lease for now that it's coming due, or we can do an addendum to it to change the annual time. We can make that happen if that's with the agreement of commissioners. We can get that prepared and have that ready for execution probably at the May meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean not execution, but for acceptance and approval at the May meeting, we'll discuss it. You know where we would like to go with it as far as again it's at an odd time. It's a June renewal, so we just need to figure out, do we want to take it to end of, instead of having it happen in June 2024, take it to January 1st, 2025. It's like an 18-month lease that takes that point, but then it can revert back to its annual. But it will give Earth Mountain the opportunity and the confidence to know that it will be coming in advance of the
available next year.
So that's something that would be
even the first of the year, or and maybe when it's not so busy for you guys too. It's a small thing, but January, February, kind of timing.
Yeah, I think that either part of the year would probably be best. We'll discuss it, but like I say, if that's okay with you, we'll take that forward.
I think that's a good idea. That way everybody, they know what they can and can't do, and they can start getting ready early for planting.
That would be helpful. And you might have seen the newspaper article. So, and I have been to the city and to the county on our new garden, our new urban garden. So that is our donation letter that we're kind of putting out there right now and canvassing to businesses. But it has a nice design in the back of your second page. So I wasn't really hitting you with that as much as I was wanting you to just see that there is a beautiful garden on its way, another urban garden right in the vacant lot on Cedar Street that is owned by Laura and Carrie Tabby, Laurie DeBella and Carrie Tabby. And Laura has owned it for quite some time, and I revisited that. We almost leased it in 2012. You might remember, if some of you were here then, the land it was dirty when we tested the soil, and that kind of went in this big loop, and everybody stepped back from it. We're bioremediating the land. We have a plan, working with soil scientists from the NRCS and SAMI and CSU, and there's a retired soil scientist here who's helping with that also. So we're moving in a slow, progressive way with bioremediating the land using different methods like biochar and fungus and different plants. So there will be testing all along the way.
A clarification. The lease is July the 8th.
July.
We executed it in June in advance of job, but it's a July. I was sitting a little bewildered. It is. If you look at
I see, July 8th.
Yeah, it's a July 8th. So, I mean, we can still configure it to be whatever else.
Okay.
But the execution date on it last year was in June. We did it much in advance. So it'll bear those dates of effective. Plus, if we do an addendum or how will we fix it up?
All right, thank you. And
sorry about that.
I'll look out for
That's
that.
good, that's okay.
Well, we're kind of regrouping after because we originally leased with the city. TURA didn't exist back in 2005, and then we had to redraft the lease with TURA and figure out who owned the land first.
So all other
I was at the housing authority meeting.
All other terms and conditions are agreeable to.
Yes, they are.
The water, the city will provide the water and
Yes.
all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and I will come in and just write you that check for the lease.
$12.
Yeah.
Okay.
We really appreciate your support. The people appreciate your support. The kids appreciate your support. It's really special for us to have a community garden for this long, and for us in town to have a community garden. The new garden will be a bit different. It won't be where people rent lots. We will be production farming there. I'm hiring managers to work that farm. It'll be a managed space. It's a chain link fence with barbed wire right now, so it's very secure, which is wonderful. People are really excited about kind of lifting that space and lifting that area of town, obviously. And so we'll open it in the morning. We'll try to be open as long as we can. We will be plugging in volunteers. And it'll be just a wonderful space for people to learn a lot of education in, everything eco-friendly, probably. So we'll have some solar system demonstrations. We'll probably have some hydroponic demonstrations. We'll be talking about how we clean the land. It'll be a wonderful model for us, and just one more highlight of a garden for the people here to be involved in. We started with a series of 3 community meetings at Space to Create. We got input from the community. We developed the plan. We have a volunteer list for every aspect of the garden. So it's going to be highly, highly built with everyone. And as you see, there's lots of grants in and things like that and funding. The water is going in as of today. The Trinidad Construction Group is putting in our infrastructure. There was no infrastructure. So no water, no electricity there, and we're just on our way. So we are in the lot, and it's an exciting project for this town.
Did you say that you weren't, like, people can't grow their own stuff?
Yeah, people won't grow their own stuff, but they can participate, they can volunteer. We'll have regular volunteer hours. They can purchase, because that right now, that's the only earned income piece, which I can tell you as a farmer, that does not equate to how much that project will take to, and same with the community garden, it doesn't equate. I have to supplementally fund these projects. And also the internship for the kids. So now we'll have 5 kids at the community garden and 5 kids for that 8-week internship at the new garden, helping us build the garden. So I'm expanding that. I only usually have 8, and now we'll have 10. And they'll be placed in both gardens. So it's very empowering. And it's walking distance from Goal, walking distance from Holy Trinity, so it's people are excited. And I think it'll be here for a long time.
Sure.
Love
everything about it.
Great.
Love everything about it.
Thanks, Tony. Well, we're going to come back and revisit it when it is back on we're going to speak with our attorney now. Not involving you, but.
And so in that, a beautification project in the city, in downtown, Corazon. If there's something that TURA seems to fit, and there's funding in any way that you guys see that this could be supported through you, you can, you know, making me ask. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Haley. Thanks.
All right, we're going to return to item number 1. Hi, Paul.
Paul left again.
Oh, I have to unmute. Hello.
Glad to see you. You made it to DCI and back.
Yes, I did, and I got back today. It was a pretty nice event.
Well, great. Well, I've sent you some advance information about, you know, TURA has, and I think we've actually touched on this briefly earlier in the year when you first started assisting us, and sent you information that you've probably been able to review already. Commissioners have thought that there's a possibility or want to see the feasibility or what the thoughts are on the acquisition of certain properties, which are residential properties, that have fallen into disrepair and could be termed as blighting conditions. And so I've sent you that information and probably had a chance to look at it and think about it. So I will go ahead and hand the floor over to you, and then we can go commissioner by commissioner to pose any questions to you.
Okay, now sometimes I can't hear you clearly, but I understood what you said. I think, I have looked this over, and you know, I saw something in here. First of all, let's talk about you know, what would be required for the Urban Renewal Authority to get involved in. We talked about this the last time I was here. We had, you know, whatever happens, the plan would have to be amended. The Urban Renewal Plan does exclude single-family residences. So to do this particular project lot in residence, we'd have to amend the plan, have the City Council consider amending the plan, adding this particular property as part of the Urban Renewal Plan. We don't have to add all single-family residences. You can just add this one if, you know, that's the decision, and that likely would be a minor amendment and would not trigger anything with 1348, in my opinion. Now, and just let me mention one other thing. There's a mention in here about perhaps using eminent domain to acquire this property. That would also require a plan amendment. And I've been thinking about it. Maybe you'll amend the plan to just allow eminent domain on this one parcel. I'm not sure what the effect would be. But I have to say, a few years ago, maybe a little more than a few now, the statute was amended because of the opposition to urban renewal authorities acquiring property by eminent domain and then turning around and transferring it for redevelopment, which is exactly what the law requires. So in lieu of just removing that altogether, there are all kinds of hoops that have to be jumped through, and one of them is, I'm not sure if this would be a major or minor amendment to the plan, and you do that may trigger 1348 compliance. I don't think so if it's only for one parcel, but I think a better solution to get control of this site, if that's what we have to do, would be for the city to foreclose on their liens and acquire the property that way. And then I don't know what the city policy is, but that is what is being done in other places such as Pueblo, where the city has foreclosed on liens there on some residential properties, and the Urban Renewal Authority is working with the city to have the city transfer those to the Urban Renewal Authority. They recently did one. In that case, it was, I think, a total clearance of the site, and Habitat for Humanity is taking title to the property and building a residence on there. this proposal doesn't involve any demolition. I think I see here what they want the authority to do would be to, assuming somehow either by eminent domain or through the lien foreclosure, which I think is better, and working with the city then to get title, and then you'd have to advertise it for proposals. And the only thing I was thinking about is if you could get control of the site here, rather than take it over and do the redevelopment yourself, which I think is, I'm not sure that that's a good idea for any public body to do that. I would explore selling the property, and subsidizing the rehab some way, and let the private sector take it over, and then put whatever restrictions you might want to keep it affordable or whatever you want to do to get that property back in productive use. I think it's a good idea to do this with these properties, is to explore this kind of a demonstration program. But I do think maybe you could consider some alternatives rather than taking on the responsibility for doing it yourself and having to supervise all this work as an owner, when I think it's better to turn it over to private enterprise, because that's really what the statute contemplates and requires.
Hey, Paul,
those are my preliminary thoughts, so I'll let you ask questions or tell me I'm wrong or something.
All right. Well, I'm going to go around the podium and have each one of the commissioners, because everybody's had questions on it, and the reason they asked that you be present tonight. So I will begin, and I will ask commissioners, please do it one at a time, and if we have to go back on a repeat, we'll do that, but we need to do it one at a time so we can properly record and know what's going on. So first up to talk to you, Paul, is going to be Commissioner Pat Howlett.
Hi, Paul. Glad you're here.
Hi.
Yeah, I'll tell you things I'm for and things I'm not for. I'm not a big fan of eminent domain, and always look at that as kind of a nuclear option for things when all other things haven't really worked out. I'm a property rights guy, but I do love that Commissioner Cochran brought this forward, because we have a lot of I call them orphan properties, and we have a lack of inventory of affordable housing. I don't say subsidized housing, I just say affordable housing for people that work here have it. So I think rehabilitating these properties, I'm more of a scrape and build, but not us actually ever doing any construction. I don't really believe we're in the construction business. I think there are other people out there in the free market system that can do that. But I do like how this was proposed, and how Commissioner Cochran's brought this forward. Is what we're looking at is how to feasibly do this, not how and why we don't do it or we shouldn't do it, but how do we do this so we can bring these 31 or so orphan properties that fall against what TURA is trying to do, which is increase safety, the value of properties, livability, increase value in neighborhoods. These properties, by definition, do the exact opposite of that. They're like cancers in our neighborhoods. What we do find is when people do invest in these properties and have that out there, that the folks next door decide to do something too, and the folks around the community and down the street also better their property and their community, so we have a lift there. So what I'm most interested as we go forward is, Paul, how do we put this forward to the degree in which we can take it, and I'm in agreement with you, take it to make it a marketable property where the free market will actually be able to take over and do that, all the way for me to the point of a scrape to build function. So that's kind of my thoughts right there. Thank you, Paul.
Commissioner Jeff Cochran.
Paul, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So, I have a couple questions. I'm totally in agreement that we shouldn't be a development company and go out and build these projects. I actually just brought this to us so that I could find out which way we could go. You mentioned a couple of things along the lines of we'd have to make some adjustments to the current program for just this one. We have 31 of these lots that could fall under this situation. Is that going to change us and put us into a 1348 position if we do all 31 of them and make amendments to the current contract with the City of Trinidad, or can we actually slide all those in and stay under that, out of that 1348?
Well, I'd have to look and see. You know, the more properties you have, of course, the closer you get to the statute says a substantial modification. But if, you know, 31 single-family lots, probably not a major modification, depending, I mean, I understand how extensive your plan area is, but it excludes a lot of properties. So if you go by, you know, how many acres or square feet of area you have, I mean, there's a technical definition. The one that I've used and the one that's been used in other places, there's a provision in the statute that certain provisions don't apply if less than 10% of the area is affected. So if these 31 lots were 10% of the actual area covered by the current plan, you know, you could argue this is not a major modification. Or you could do it, I mean, if you wanted to start with one or two or a few as a, you know, just to see how it worked as a demonstration project, you could add these parcels a few at a time by a similar type amendment. But I mean, how to get control of the site, or perhaps, I don't know, work with the current owners if they're willing. I mean, you'd have to start there, I assume. But I assume what you're saying is these are owned by absentee owners, and you know, the city's tried hard to get these into get something going on here. When you have something like $28,000 worth of liens on the property from the city alone, you know, the owners, I don't know how they expect to get much from this property. So somehow or other, you're going to have to get control, and you know, it's never pleasant to have to foreclose on somebody's property, but or else you're going to have to acquire it by negotiation. And you have to have, of course, money to pay in case they agree, and then you have to pay off all these liens.
In this particular case, we have a situation where the owner is deceased, and there are no next of kin that are coming up to claim this. So, understood on maybe some of these other properties, we may have an issue where we need to be very delicate in how we handle it. In this situation, I think that foreclosing on the property may be the best way to go about this, because there's no one that we're actually offending. And the last thing TURA wants to do is go back to the 60s and offend everybody with the way we go about doing things. I don't think we want to do that. But in this case, I think we've got a situation. We have a situation where there's no one to offend, and that's where that eminent domain came up. And that was my idea, and I did not know if that was a viable option. I just saw it as something that might be available. In regards to their other properties where we do have owners or we do have people that are still alive, I do not want to come in and be a rude awakening to them. Negotiations with them in either resolving their tax lien or letting us take over the property. I'm not sure how we go about doing that, but I don't want us to come in and you're right, and obviously eminent domain is not the right way to go.
Well, I think you could design a program where you know, if you had owners willing to talk about doing, you know, if they could get out from under some of the costs. I mean, it's just sometimes it's just too much. The burdens on the property are too much, but maybe they'd be willing to do it if they could get some tax increment funds to help in some way. And you can figure out a way to do that. One of the things I took the liberty of talking to Jared Pacheco, the executive director of the Pueblo Renewal Authority, and asked him if he would be willing to, perhaps, if you wanted to, somebody from your board, some representatives or all of you, would take a trip up to Pueblo and meet with Jerry, or he might even, he's probably willing to come down and talk to you about what they're trying to do in Pueblo. And it's not easy because, you know, they have a staff and they have a budget. They have a lot of projects they're working on. So even there, it's pretty difficult. But if that's an option for you to at least get some ideas and some practical advice from someone who's doing it, you can keep that in mind. And I'd be happy to facilitate either a meeting there or in Trinidad. I'm pretty sure Jerry would come down to talk to you.
Great idea.
Well, I'm all for meeting with them, depending upon what the commission, what the board says here. We're trying to get as much information as we can to figure out how we can move forward without offending the public, without coming in and being a pain in the butt, for lack of a better word, but actually moving forward and making urban renewal. That is what we're trying to do here. I'm all for seeing on this one particular property. I would suggest that we go ahead and move forward with the city asking, let's take care of this lien, and since there's no one there to actually fight against it, then maybe that would be an option on this one particular project. I don't think that's the way to go about each and every project, because there are owners that still exist that actually own these properties. But you're right, we are, if you look at their liens against what that property might be worth, they're way upside down. They could never make that work, and so that might be something that TURA needs to come in and help with. A program. I'm not sure how we do this, but I'm all for moving forward and trying to make this work out without offending our public.
Commissioner Luis-Lopez.
Good evening, Mr. Bendetti. Thank you for being here. I'm a firm believer in following my attorney's advice. Just so you know, I have multiple attorneys I work with on the multiple different groups I serve with. I want to just say thank you for enlightening us and giving your perspective of statute and policy and procedure moving forward at this point. I think you've given us a great description of how to move forward and some insight. And I truly believe that this board can come to a consensus making the best decision based on these properties moving forward at this point. It is so invaluable to have you giving us this stabilization and of information how we can be a stronger board collectively regarding this property and many others. So I'll keep it at that, short and sweet. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate all of your information you've given us tonight. And I think this board can move forward with the next project or with the next avenue regarding these properties, whether it be with the city of Trinidad and or otherwise with the advice you've given us tonight. So thank you.
If I may just add one point to keep in mind, talking about the Hughes Lumber property, the procedure that maybe we're going to go through there with the city and then putting the property up for redevelopment would be, in a way, on a little smaller scale, exactly what you could do with these residential properties. You know, I've done it before in other communities, and it works. There are the statutory requirements we have to meet, but we can do it, and it can be done fairly rapidly. But the big the first really step is getting the property in the hands of somebody that's willing to go forward and cooperate with the plan. And in this case, on this property, it's obviously the city or the Urban Renewal Authority in some manner. So that's my last comment. I don't want to belabor the point. I'm just telling you, you're going to learn and have experience in doing this with the Hughes Lumber Building if we can get that going here in the next few weeks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jeff Heck.
Thank you for coming down, Paul. I'm listening to everything that's going on, and I'm wondering what's involved in establishing an overall plan to meet a bunch of different circumstances so we don't have to go through this every time. So we have some sort of baseline for the different types of situations that we're going to come on. Is that like a total redo of the charter, or is it something that we can do? Is it something that the city council has to do? Because it seems like there's a lot of different circumstances that are involved.
Well, one of the nice things is once I'm assuming the city has the power to foreclose these liens, or to somehow the Urban Renewal Authority, I know, has the power to work with the city, and the city has. It's not governed. The dealings with the Urban Renewal Authority, between the Urban Renewal Authority and the city, are governed by the statute, unless there's something specific in your charter that would prohibit the city from doing that. I don't know. I mean, we can consult with the city attorney, but this is a common device used in other places. I mean, I've done similar projects like this in Dillon and in Frederick, and earlier in my career in Denver. We're doing it now in Pueblo. It's relatively small scale, but these small scale little things, as you were saying, really help get things going. And if you do it once, then you have the template set up, and it doesn't involve a whole lot of extra additional costs. Although I have to say, whenever you have public property, public money, there are lots of constraints that you have to jump to. You just have to do them, but they're not impossible. And the statute, the Urban Renewal statute, gives you some leeway. You have the ability to write down land price. You can do things that the Urban Renewal Authority can do things that the city can't. The Urban Renewal Authority is not subject to TURA, so it can enter into multiple fiscal year obligations. And that's why it's in the interest of the city to cooperate with the authority to achieve the city's goals in these things, like implement the comprehensive plan, get these properties back in productive use. So as long as everybody's cooperating, it works pretty well.
I have one additional question. I read the information that Brittany sent to us, and I was wondering, why hasn't the city taken this property at this point? I mean, why has it gotten to the point where $28,000 is owed? I don't know if you can answer that, Paul.
He can't answer that question. He can't, but I will answer it for you.
It just seems like it's been a long time, and because there's no real owner, it's like a no-brainer that the city should take it over and do something with it.
I can speak to that, Paul, if you want me to do it at this point. The city went in, and the liens date back to 2020. It's not a long period of time. They had to go in there and they had to do some abatement. They had to go in and take over property that had been abandoned and then had been occupied for quite some time by transients. So there's a lot that goes with it, Commissioner. It isn't, that's one of many, but it's a matter of where the city wants to go with it once the approach. Nobody's approached, so it sits there, but it's a matter of determining what the city's position is on it. Do they want to do that? They may abate those amounts that are there and say, okay, maybe TURA or wherever else, they might want to abate them and take other action on it. It doesn't necessarily have to be to us. But it's, the lien, if you look at the paperwork that was sent out to you, it does indicate on the treasurer's statement that it was, the liens began in 2023. And so, before I forget, one of the things too, is are we for sure there's no next of kin on that?
So my research is limited. No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Because I think,
I was told.
because I think there is.
I was told there wasn't.
Yeah, I think, believe there is.
That answers my question, yeah.
Commissioner Leon.
I'm really confused. That's easily done. Hello, Paul. Thank you for showing up tonight. This is just really interesting to me. Until Ed said something, I was thinking, wow, if there's no relatives, there's no problem. We could go to the city. But if there is a relative, then we're going to have to work through that. I'm assuming we've checked everything else out.
No.
No.
There's a lot of checking to do.
Okay.
The relative that is in existence, the reason that I said there aren't any is because he was, how do I say it? He was a drug addict that probably wasn't going to come back around, and we weren't too, the person that explained this to me wasn't too concerned about them getting back involved. But that is just what was told to me there. That was not in-depth.
We need research.
Research, yeah.
But anyway, Paul, I'm just sitting in, taking it all in and trying to see where we're at. But thank you so much, Paul. That was very interesting. Go ahead.
Commissioner Jerry Bailey.
Hi, Paul. I appreciate you being here and trying to help us sort out everything. As far as I'm concerned, I think if we can navigate through the legalities of how we get a hold of this, I think it could be a super highway to getting some of these things done. But I agree with the idea that TURA should not probably be the contractor, but I think we have some other alternatives that might really work well that will assist if we could just navigate through this part. If we can get this part where we have you helping us maybe acquiring these properties. I also know that there's some things that, asbestos abatement, and I think we can find some ways through that. So, but anyway, I just want to make sure that I think once we get through this and we actually acquire properties, I think we could be in a position to help beautify, if we want to fix these properties up through something that is in place right now at the college. So without saying too much about that, but I think we have a few hurdles to go over first, and I think we've seen some of those hurdles, and that's why we're really glad you're here, because we want to make sure we're not barking up the wrong tree here. We want to make sure we got something that we can actually do. But it was encouraging to me to hear how other communities are doing this, like in Pueblo. That's encouraging to me, and I'm glad that you were able to bring that to our attention. But there's so many different facets to this. But if we could find that template, that's really what I'd like to see. If we can find that template. So,
For sure.
I just wanted to go over something. If TURA, in fact, could take over this property, and there's some kind of problem with asbestos or something like that, wouldn't that fall on the developer's side? So if we're not going to actually develop this property or do anything to it, we are just simply taking over or acquiring it, and then selling it or to a developer, wouldn't that portion of that become the developer's issue?
Well, the way I see it, I see it working, just say the city foreclosed on the lien on this property and, assume it has asbestos, all kinds of, maybe it doesn't, but it does have problems, obviously, so the first thing you have to decide, are you going to preserve the building or tear it down? and that you can do that. You know, that's an evaluation. Either the city or somebody, you know, an expert can tell you. Contractor, somebody local there would know how they're willing to do it. Now, the way I think the best way to do it for TURA and probably for the city, if the city takes title, then the city would. This is not property, I think, that would be subject to the charter. It'd be excess property. It'd be something that they wouldn't have to get fair market value for. If the city did have to get fair market value, we can figure out how to take care of that, you know, with a note deed of trust or something, and pay it out of the TIF or out of the proceeds of any sale. But I would propose that the city would enter into an agreement with the Urban Renewal Authority. And incidentally, this is how I'm proposing that we do it on the Hughes property. The city then, we would, the authority would agree that it would then advertise the property, obtain hopefully a proposal from a developer who's qualified legally and has the means to rehab the property, and then we would set up a closing date. It would be a simultaneous closing on a date when there'd be certain conditions in the contract that the developer would have to meet, but there'd be two contracts, one between TURA and the city, and the other one between TURA and the developer. And TURA would essentially be a conduit then that would provide tax increment help if that's available. TURA could write down the price of the property to make sure it worked, that the redevelopment worked, if in case the developer could show that the property couldn't be, you know, they can't pay fair market value, or somebody would have done this already. So there has to be probably some sort of public help to get these properties back into production. You have a closing on the same day at the title company, and the city deeds the property to TURA, TURA deeds the property to the redeveloper, and then TURA then monitors what the redeveloper does. And you know, those deeds are recorded one after the other. And so there's not this, you know, it's bad enough. You don't want to be in a position where you're responsible too long for a property that's got all kinds of environmental problems. And, you know, we pass the property on as is, but if there's remediation to be done, then hopefully we can figure out a way to finance it. And usually, you know, we work with the developer's lender to see if they can get money, and we can pledge a certain amount of tax increment, maybe just the increment produced by this property when it gets back on the tax rolls, to help pay for those costs, help pay for land costs. I don't know if there is enough money available, but then, you know, today and yesterday I was listening to all this grant money that's available out there, and that somebody said this is the most money available from the federal government, for instance, since LBJ was in office. So I don't know, I've been urging all my clients to look into maybe partnering up on some of these grants and seeing how difficult it is to comply with some of those. And I have a whole, I got a brochure, and you know, from the state, from private parties, from Department of Agriculture. There are all kinds of programs. There's a Middle Income Housing Authority program I heard about that, but the deadline for applying is May 1st. So, you know, but those are the kinds of things that I think the authority can do to help mitigate the cost of getting this property back in shape without taking on more than probably a volunteer board without much staff can afford to do.
Yeah.
Pat?
I just, you know, Paul, Pat Howland again. You know, I get a chance to ask questions first, but then I always learn something from the other commissioners as it goes around the table. And so one of the things I want to be clear, at least in my mind, about is I don't care about this property. so we keep talking about this property and this property's problems, or is there a person that owns the property or somebody that's a kin of the person that owns the property or whatever? I'm most interested in a template, in a success model that takes any of these 31 properties through a process. And so that may very well be in some cases where we can, as you laid out, we can have the city do what they can do to acquire the property through a lien foreclosure and bring that property in and then work with TURA to redevelop that. But I also want to make sure that you're helping us with regards to other models that may have us create a program. Let's say this house is owned by somebody in Trinidad and they just have not had the capability or means to bring it back into the marketplace. Is there an opportunity for us to actually have a program that actually helps people stay in their home and we bring them back through that? So I'm less interested in a property and more interested in how we can identify certain properties out of the 31 basket that may qualify. Some of them may, off the very top, we say we can't do anything with those. But we may end up with 5 or 10 or some of them there that we'll be able to acquire with the help of the city, and others that will have a program, because we do have tools. TURA, a reason a municipality has a TURA is TURA brings tools and a toolkit and funding and certain things that a city can't do. And so I want to make sure that when TURA is a good partner to the city and the county in the things we can do. So I want to make sure that you're not looking at this from this property, but from the model that you can bring forward, if that makes sense.
Point taken. As I say, there are plenty of programs out there that provide loans to property owners.
Yep.
that could be helped through the authority. The problem is the red tape and applying. I mean, you have to have people. These things are hard to navigate. This was a big topic in the DCI meeting, and I made contact with the administrator for these rural loans from the Department of Agriculture, and I hear talk from people saying that there's so much red tape involved. So I asked him about it. He said he lives in the San Luis Valley, so he understands the problems of Southern Colorado, and he said he would personally help communities come up and develop their programs. So I urge you to, maybe DCI can come down and give you some advice, but the problem is sometimes you just talk about doing things and don't get them done. So I'm not negating, starting out, get your feet wet on one property that has one problem, but I agree with you. I know from many years of experience that each one of these situations is going to be a little different. So you can have a template, but you have to have a template that's flexible. Some people, you just have to be able to help them find a resource. They're a bank, a local bank, maybe the Bank of Trinidad or somebody like that will help do some financing. If they understand how tax increment works, you can pledge the increment to help pay for some of these costs or help pay down the amount of the money that the homeowner has to borrow to do the work. I mean, it works. I know it works. It's just that it takes time, it takes investment, and I think, frankly, I think you guys need some staff, something to help you. You can't have Ed doing all this work on his own. And all of you, I know you're putting in a lot of time, but there has to be, maybe there's a resource in Trinidad, somebody at the county, somebody that can facilitate, help the owners make contact with the city and the Urban Renewal Authority, or work with us in a bank. All kinds of resources are out there, but it's going to take time to set up a program that fits, that can service all these needs. And it can be done, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, I guess a couple of things as we go forward. One, in order to move into the model of not only doing what was originally on the plan description, or the adopted plan, is this concept of going into the residential areas to do things, we're going to have to present that to the city government, the city council who actually approved the plan, to let them know or ask if we can make changes to that plan to allow us to go into the areas that were not originally adopted. I believe that's number one. Number two is within that plan, when eminent domain is mentioned, if the documents, the plan documents specifically say, I thought I had it in my briefcase, but I don't. But anytime there's going to be talk of or the consideration of eminent domain on the part of TURA, the city council will have to make that approval. It's in the document in the filed plan. And so again, I guess the question is if we're going to even consider moving toward residential renovation, remediation of projects, we need to speak with the governing body, because it's going to involve something of an amendment to the plan. Am I correct?
I wouldn't recommend talking about eminent domain and talking about amending the plan to add residential properties. You're going to scare everybody that they think you're going to come and acquire their property. I think you can save eminent domain, as somebody said, as a last resort. That would be my recommendation. It's not a legal one, but it's one that's one thing that scares the heck out of people, that they do not like the thought that their property is going to be acquired. Me, I would love it if somebody would use eminent domain on my property, because you make out a lot better than you do on the open market. Believe me, I've been through it.
No, I was not suggesting eminent domain. I was just saying that in the document, if TURA has eminent domain in their mind, it has to be, because I don't want to use the word forbidden, but it is in the plan document that if TURA is ever to consider eminent domain, we first have to get the blessing, approval from the city government. The governing board has to get us.
It's in there now. Yeah, you don't have to emphasize it. It's there now.
No, he wouldn't.
So you don't have to even talk about eminent domain. You do not have the power to use eminent domain right now.
No, and I'm only bringing it up because it has been mentioned. I'm trying. My point of uttering the two words is the fact that it's not allowable under the conditions. It's been mentioned, but it's not so easily done, because the governing body still has the overriding approval whether urban renewal can go there. Not that we're going there. I'm just saying that if it's been mentioned, but it's not an open tool for us without the governing body's approval. And the other thing is, again, we need to get their approval, and whatever plan amendment has to be made in order to move into the residential sector, if I'm correct.
Piece by piece, or is it?
No, the plan called. I mean, it tells you there was 5,100 parcels within the boundaries of the corporate limits. And all the residential, anything that's referred to as residential, which isn't commercial, industrial, vacant, or I can't remember what that is. That's what we're limited to. It doesn't mention residential in there. It actually excludes residential.
Well, we're asking to change that one at a time. In other words, we'd go to the city one parcel at a time and ask for.
Again, but that's what I'm trying to get clarification from Paul. We need, and so that everybody here knows it. The steps to, we've kicked this can around quite a bit, but before we can kick this can any further or considering going there, the city of Trinidad has to approve that we're going to go outside the written document of what it is. So it's a matter of, they might say yes, they may be, go with it, but before, that's out there, we still have to have the approval of the blessing of the governing body.
But your point is specifically to eminent domain?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, it's been put on the table. I am trying to clarify that eminent domain is not a tool for us without going in front of the governing body, and because it basically is forbidden.
It's actually not even really a good tool for us at all.
I don't think so. I'm a native of
But he explained that. It isn't a good tool for us, but you you brought that up.
Yeah, I did, but I understand where you,
Okay.
I understand.
I withdraw. So I
Yeah,
have,
I-
my point is to get clarification for this. It's been mentioned, I'm trying to get the
I
clarification.
withdraw that idea
Okay,
completely.
I
okay,
think Keely wants to say something.
okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Keely, did you?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I think
let me introduce you to Paul Benedetti. Paul, this is Keely Williams. I mentioned
Hi,
her
Paul.
name to you about, she's the Director of Development Services for the City of Trinidad and liaison for
Hello.
TURA.
hi.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. So I just think that this is a really good time to approach the city about some of these issues. We know I've only been in this position for a few months, but for several months, maybe 6 or more, there hasn't been much semblance of a building department. And I can tell you, just from boots on the ground, what's coming through our doors is a lot of complaints about blight, and a lot of complaints about just there's a backlog of violations and things like that. I'm not saying that all of these should be considered for sale. That's not what I'm saying. And what we propose is always incentives and corrective action first. But there's a lot of notices going out. I think that this is a bigger issue than just the 31 properties. And so because there's so many people that want the city to take some responsibility and start dealing with the blight and start dealing with the beautification of our city, I think it's a good time to talk about it and at least ask the question. I'd be happy to sort of bring it to Steve or bring it to some council members and just get their opinion on, hey, how's it gone in the past? Where are we trying to go? That sort of thing. And then I could come report back to you or at the next meeting.
Be very helpful.
Okay.
Very.
I can do that.
And
And the
if you
second
ask them
thing,
what
yeah,
we
the
can
second
do.
thing I can do is talk with Les and see, hey, what was that? What was the process like for the Hughes lumber? And I can also come back at the next meeting and report on that. So we have a little bit more information.
Hughes lumber is a work in progress. We're going to talk about it tonight.
Something I'd like to add.
Regular.
I'd like to invite everybody, I don't know if this is the proper time or not, but,
Reports by commissioners.
okay.
Hold it till then.
Okay.
Okay, Paul. You're back to man of the hour.
Are you calling on me for something?
No, I'm just saying,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I think we've circled the podium, and so, anything else that you would like to mention to us, as far as...
Can I ask him one
Sure.
question?
One more
No,
question.
and I know it's time to get rid of the attorney, and I understand why.
No, not
I'll be happy to
necessarily.
come down sometime when I'm visiting Pueblo. I'm from Walsenburg originally, so I have family there. I am going to be over in Center week after next, so just to keep your bills down. Sometime maybe I can combine a trip somewhere else and drop by, and if we've got something that I can come in and talk about. Otherwise, I just have to say, it's not quite as hard as you might think to do this stuff. I mean, it's been done before. We have agreements in place, so all it takes is cooperation. I like the idea of talking to the city, get the city on board. You're the instrument that can make this happen. You can do things the city can't, and if the city is wise, they will utilize their urban renewal authority in a way that benefits people and doesn't scare them.
Okay. Paul, I have one more question for one of my commissioners. Don't leave yet. Hold on.
Paul, you piqued my interest on something you said before. Having written a number of grants in the past, not to do with this stuff, to do with children's programs, sports programs, and education. But I was wondering if you could maybe send Ed the information from DCI about the resources that are available, because and even the one that's coming up in a couple of weeks, which we probably couldn't do anything with, but at least then we might have a template for something that would come up next year. But if we had that information, there might be some things that we can use to help the city.
I'll forward you what I have, and maybe some contact information for the gentleman I met who's running the rural housing programs, that I think, you know, you ought to look into it. Maybe have a grant writer there, your new economic development director, somebody, you know, the problem is writing to get these grants. And meeting the requirements, so it's not easy. But I'll help you all I can.
Okay. Well,
I promise.
Paul and Keely we've talked, and I've mentioned your name and what we've talked about in the past about the grants and those kinds of things. So she's agreed to be our conduit. She's our liaison as for TURA in the city of Trinidad, and she said that she would. I can repeat that. Right?
Yes.
She would be our conduit. So I will give her your contact information as well as Kat Corrals at DCI, and you can give ideas of what those possibilities are for us, and then she'll channel those to me.
I will do that.
Wonderful.
I'll send it to you, Ed. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Paul,
you.
have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Paul.
Thank you for
Anything else I can help you with?
Thanks, Paul. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thanks for dropping
There's
us.
going
Thank
to be
you.
a lot you can help us with.
Thank you. All right, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, so we've had our discussions on 1700 Arizona and or similarities. So in order to make that become if it's going to do it, I guess the next plan of action is based upon what our urban renewal plan is adopted in 2015, which does not allow for residential properties. Our next step is to make contact with the city of Trinidad. They have to help roll that forward or get that opinion.
Absolutely.
So are you doing that, or is Keely?
Well, we're going to work in tandem. She's going to assist in that direction, so it's a matter of working in tandem and the foot in the door, I guess.
I think this is fantastic. We're finally working with the city and maneuvering together. This is great.
Well, in I don't know, in explanation or whatever, it's been difficult because there hasn't been anybody on staff except for the assistance we get from Brittany, that I get from Brittany, is with the exit of a city manager in 2019, and there was nobody else to follow through there. A lot of things happened. COVID happened. Just a whole lot of disaster happened.
Yeah.
And so from that point in 2019, the thing was we could have just stopped business altogether, and TURA may have ceased to exist or go into hibernation again.
Right.
Okay. I chose to take it forward the way it went, with or without an executive director. That's where TURA sits today. And so, yes, we need an executive director. I would kiss the ground they walk on if I could get an executive director.
No, you will.
Yes, sir. That's the whole thing.
I'm just really happy that we're able. Kaylee, you're going to be beneficial in this process.
So for that part,
you needed a warm body.
And the planets are aligning from them till now, with the city being very receptive to what we're bringing forward to them.
Well, they're also getting their community together.
Well, they've never not been receptive, okay? It's just not gotten there. But we're going to talk about the receptiveness as we go through this thing. So that's the plan. It's a matter of, I will communicate with Keely, and this matter, not particularly that property, but properties as a whole, we'll have something.
Agreed.
Okay. Item number 2, Keely is here. It's an open invitation for you to be here at every meeting. You have been put on that email list with that Brittany.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, the full entire agenda will be going to you.
Okay,
I think you
lovely.
put it on this month. I believe you're on the.
Yeah, no, I have it right, yeah, I've got
So
it right now.
I will make you privy to everything that we have going.
Yeah, absolutely, and likewise, I can certainly, if there's anything that I feel is important to Renewal, which is, I feel like there's probably a lot going on right now, I'd be happy to share what the city's trying to do to facilitate some of these things. Yeah, we've got area-wide planning efforts, we've got code changes, ordinance changes, so there's all sorts of stuff going on, historic preservation stuff.
A lot to absorb, right?
Yeah, it's a lot to absorb, but
It's clay, though. It's getting molded into something that's...
Yeah, and there's a lot of movement, which is exciting. It's an exciting time.
It's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else you would like? I didn't cut you off?
No, the only other thing I would like to say is that I was really compelled by the incentives that were available, and we do have a lot of incentives that I think could apply to this board. We've got one of the best historic preservation incentives in the entire nation, grants, and then the city and the building department are being diligent about blight and things like that, but are not being so hard on people. They're trying to give people the opportunity to make corrective action and fix some of these things, you know, when it comes to like urban renewal. And if not, then I think the idea is to go to the next step. But there's just been a lot more enforcement lately with some of this stuff, especially downtown. So that's just really just kind of a brief little city report.
Thank you.
Action in process.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What, so as far as these grants, is that something that you might be willing to look into? And I mean, obviously you're going to get the paperwork, but as the development director, is that something we can kind of rely on you to go, hey, you guys, you need to look at this one, and that we can make decisions as a board to go, hey, let's move on this.
Yeah, I would love the opportunity to try to like get a little short list of things that are
perfect.
And I could present that probably by next meeting because I just kind of know what they are.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Item number 3, we're actually circling back, and I think that was pretty well discussed. Earth Mountain Education Farm. The lease, if everybody's familiar with it, the land is over on the corner of Linden and White. It's been operated for many, many years. Previous to us being, it just existed. The city of Trinidad actually leased it. It's always been TURA-owned property. The city of Trinidad had a running lease with the Earth Mountain Education Farm for that parcel of land for several years. A couple of years ago, unfortunately at around Easter time, which became a project for me, that's why you're seeing these odd dates on this lease. It was discovered in the spring of 2021 that there was a TURA parcel piece of land being leased by the incorrect entity. And so that was rewritten, and it was written at an odd time, but it took from April when all that came together to be able to ultimately get it executed in July. So that's why it falls at an odd time of the year. Its inception date or its effective date prior to that was earlier in the year, but then again, that's a TURA parcel of land, and it was being leased by the city of Trinidad in our absence. So that lease exists. It's renewable on July the 8th, which is, again, an odd time of the year for gardening to have a lease come up or not know that a lease is coming up. So Joni in the past has said, and we didn't do it last year, it was not a convenience in time. But we can change that to make it happen at an earlier time and take it at a shorter time, have it happen like next March and have a year, take it from July the 8th to March of 2024, 23, 24, have it a short term, then make it a year lease from there forward, or you can take it at an odd term from July the 8th to the following January the 1st, 2025, so that they have the confidence that they're not going to be said, you don't have a lease, and all your crops are just beginning to break ground. So that's really what it amounts to. Do we want to take it from July to July again, or do we want to take it short term to the first of the year, make it an annual lease from there? That way it's renewal or non-renewal happens at a time that wouldn't be detrimental to the community garden.
And I like the idea of making it like an 18-month lease so that they have an assurance that they're going to be able to do this for the following year, and we know that we have them doing it. I think also cuts down some of the paperwork for us.
Is that 18 months or less?
Well, it would be July to the end of this year. I guess that's 6 months.
January 1st, yeah.
And then the whole following year, and then they can renew at the beginning of 2025. And
agreed.
So that would, in effect, be, I guess, an 18-month lease?
Give or take,
like
pretty
that.
much an 18-month lease.
What that does, it nullifies us having another agenda item of discussion
Exactly.
again, and for them to appear before us. So I'm fine with that.
And to that point, this has been going on since 2005. Okay, we're 2015 forward, so this has been going on for a long time. Would we be interested at all, and since we're the leaseor, we can write the lease however we want, would we be interested at all, and we extend this to 18 months, that gets us to a year, but then have it to where they are, that unless we knew something was changing with that piece of property, it just automatically rolls over into the next year, unless we give them some notice prior to that of something that happens. I mean, why, I don't
know if you can do that. Then that would be a question I'd have to ask Paul Benedetti.
Okay.
It's one that, what if we had a possibility that it might go to development and it's no longer feasible?
But again, if we had that, we would still be giving them some kind of notice, right?
Not if it renews.
No, again, the language would be, and again, obviously an attorney, I'm with Luis on this. I listen to attorneys. That's why you have them, okay? So I'm just, as a commissioner, saying this. The attorney actually would have to do this. But you could do this in such a way that by a certain period of time, there's a window that we would say, listen, if somebody wants to develop that, you'll need to develop that before it gets to this point, because chances are we're going to renew their lease anyway. I'm just throwing it out there.
And good idea. My but on that is being a landlord, and I'm the leasee, and I'm just assuming for the next 2-3 years I've got this renewal, and then blindsided, boo, we're not renewing you because of In-N-Out Burger's coming, or a housing development. So as the leasee, I would rather have it in writing every year. I know I got another year.
Well, you
do the same thing. I've got a whole bunch of rental units too. So
and I don't know that we want to automatic renew.
Again, I'm good pulling that out. I just threw it out there.
One time they let that go down really bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yes,
really bad. I mean,
in fact, last year
it was
they started bringing it back.
I can tell you what, if you haven't been by there, it's flashing good points.
It was dark for a long period of time, and it came back to being in about 2021.
We've got a great manager now.
It has changed.
Yes.
But in that whatever period of time, from the original lease to when that was brought together and put back in place, okay, it was leased by the city of Trinidad, and so when that was discovered, that's when we changed the lease.
As a localist, I love being a part of something that has local food and local food production. I just think that's part of our roots too.
So what's our desire here? Are we going to take it to end of this year and then have it yearly renew on January the 1st?
I think that's
We'll take it a short term, take it to January the 1st, January 1st, 2024. It'll be one lease from there. Because again, it is our own land, but in the event that maybe there is a developer says that could become a productive one-family dwelling site, how long do you want to have it tied up? Not that I'm trying to. But I mean, it may be one, just take it to January the 1st. We'll have to handle it January the 1st again, but it'll be.
But that'll give her time to decide whether or not she wants to lease the property and start the whole thing over again in the first place. I agree, that's the best way to go.
So, all right, so just
bring that's her downtime, so that would be good.
Take it January the 1st.
Yeah.
That way, it's a convenient time for all.
Yes.
It says either, and it doesn't restrict them at any point where crops are just coming up and now you tell me no lease.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part, I think, what they want, some kind of confidence or assurance
right.
that it's not going to be when the corn's coming out of the ground.
Got it.
Okay, we'll get it set up for January 1st.
Unless they're going to win your garlic.
Iceberg lettuce.
Yeah.
I will talk with her in advance to see if that's okay, but it gets her to the point where, if anything's going to happen, it doesn't happen at midsummer.
Sure.
Enough?
I'm fine with it.
All right. Item number 4. At last meeting in March, briefly was touched on Cougar Canyon. There was a meeting held with a work session held by Los Animas County. It was facilitated by Los Animas County. Various entities were invited. A lot was said that night, but that was basically where it was at. I don't know if there's anything else coming from that or anything else that can, because there is a lot involved with it. Are we in any kind of position to talk about it any further? This is something that involves a lot of other entities, a lot of probably legalities. So it's just a matter. We were invited there. I attended. We were obviously there. Commissioner Howlett was there.
Jeff, is it?
Commissioner Heck, Commissioner
This is your
Were you there, Jerry?
Yeah.
No, my wife's birthday, I'm sorry.
So anyway, so I mean,
She
there were
don't
things
I
that were
have some
said.
comments with regards to that, though, so, to
Okay,
that,
well-
that evening. So will we be
Okay,
taking
yeah.
any
So,
comments?
yeah, so if that's what we want to do, like I say, and in your comments, we generalize, I don't think we want to.
No specifics, specifically to that meeting.
Yeah.
First of all, I really appreciate the county commissioner's leadership on this. This is something that just seems to just continually put on the side. Love the way it went forward. I thought the county representatives did an outstanding job of laying down and setting the table with regards to here's where dollars are. And they also did a great job of saying, here's where people are being hurt by not sitting aboard and not doing some things. And it's something along the lines of $500,000 sitting in a pot that can't be moved. And some of those dollars need to go places like fire districts that are fighting fires in other areas. And so I was really, really pleased about that. I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed in the city's position. And I have to say that because it was disappointing. It got to the point, and it was disappointing not as Pat, the guy who lives in the town as a citizen, it was disappointing as a TURA member. It seems to be the city's position is that's such a legal quagmire that we're not talking about it any time, and we don't want to talk about it in public at all. And so the mayor's position seemed to be, listen, we're not bringing anything to the table here. They almost seemed like they were ambushed with regards to the meeting, although it had been publicized. But we're not saying anything here. But we will schedule a time with us and our attorney in executive session, with you, county, and your attorney in executive session, to actually talk about this. I personally think, and personally as a commissioner think, that was inappropriate. And I say that's inappropriate because you have TURA here. And if that's in our area, that is in our current 1348 urban renewal plan area. We bring tools to the city and to the county that they can't get anywhere else. There's more money on the sidelines, government money on the sidelines, as Paul just shared, than almost ever before. And so I want to make sure, in any way possible, that when these meetings happen, and I'm not a big executive session guy unless it's required. I think the public has a right to know things and the public needs to see things. But I want to make sure, Jared, that TURA has a seat at that table when those entities sit down. It was disappointing that we were excluded, on record, excluded from being at that meeting when pretty much everything that has to do with the recovery of that property, certain elements, TURA is the scalpel for it. TURA is the tool for it. So I was really pleased with the meeting, and I really want to make sure as the county continues its leadership, moving that ball, that stone out of the road, that TURA gets an advocacy role and an advisory role, and we get a chance to bring our toolkit to that party. And so that's my comment there. I don't mean to make anybody upset at that, but it was disappointing how the city came to that meeting and almost said, we're not talking about this unless we can talk about it in private. We all know that it's a legal quagmire, but we've known that for decades now. Somebody needs to jump into it, and I applaud the county for actually doing that.
Mr. Cochran?
I have no comments. I did not attend the meeting, so therefore I will withdraw.
Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. I asked to have this on here just to give you guys a position of the county commissioners. The comment you made was exactly true. The Mayor Rico was confused regarding having executive session with commissioners and city council. That is illegal under sunshine laws unless we are purchasing a property collectively together. So this is a development that has nothing to do, so we can't legally do that. So our recommendation was to move forward with the city administrator, county administrator, and our two legal counsel, and or TURA, one board member, chairman, at that point moving forward to set up a meeting to have that legal discussion. Then that legal advice can come back to the respective boards, and then those boards can make a determination how to move forward. There's been one email and no follow-up since. I'm not happy.
Yep.
So I had this discussion today with our administrator, and he's going to reach out to Mr. Ruger to see where the city's at. If I have to, I will bring it forward again, and I'll do another work session until this ball gets rolling. Yep, end of story. Mr. Hank?
Commissioner Howling, I thought it was just me that thought the mayor was rather contentious that night. I have no idea what goes on in this town at this point, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I also spoke to the superintendent at Honey, where I do substitute. And he's pretty upset about things too. Hopefully, Commissioner Lopez, you can get the ball rolling on this, because it seems a little crazy that it's just been sitting there for so long. Right?
Commissioner Leone?
My personal feeling about Cougar County is it hurts everybody, period. It hurts the county, it hurts the city, it hurts the people that live down there. I mean, there's just nothing good right now about Cougar Canyon. And yes, I totally agree, something at some point needs to get settled and figured out somehow. I know it's going to be a lot of legal. I can't even imagine how much legal. But I agree with that Trinidad should do something about it, period.
I'd have to say amen to that, because that's the same thing, the way I feel. It's just, it was out there, it was the belle of the ball, and our crowning jewel for a few short years, and everything was going good. We actually went to Dallas, Texas, and people said, "Oh, that's the place where Cougar Canyon is." And I was like, "You know about that?" I says, so it was really, really nice. And so to have it just totally dilapidated, I would just have to. Yeah. Well, I don't think Sophie said it any better.
I said I was a strong yay against eminent domain for anything in residential areas and with people. I would be a strong yay with eminent domain in Cougar Canyon.
Anything else?
I could make a little comment.
Go ahead.
I don't want to say too much, because I know this is a real litigious thing, and this precedes me by a lot of years. But I just wonder, what have other municipalities done when to attract a developer to come and look at the land that they're trying to develop? Just because, both of, county, city, we're not real estate developers, but I drove out there and I just thought it was just so gorgeous. And I know that the county's been working to try to make some connections with some developers. Is there something we could do? Is there to market it to the,
There
private
is a developer
sector?
that has money readily wanting to invest. They won't do a thing until the Metro Board is seated.
I was just going to ask Commissioner Lopez this, and I was going to ask you this as kind of the county. We don't.
But that's not our place to do that.
I understand, but when we're looking at this, and if the pushback is it's a legal mess, and as soon as you go down that, and you say, okay, but is the legal mess before you seat the Metro District, or can you seat the Metro District and then the legal mess comes out there, but you can at least free money, you can at least start talking to people, you can at least start taking that.
Great question. That's why we need the attorneys to.
That's the question I have for the attorneys. Can you seat the Metro District right now with whomever you can put there?
I don't know. That's why we need legal minds to come together and then to present that to their boards.
It is my legal question, though.
Yep.
Thank you,
and
sir.
that's why I follow legal advice. And then if you don't like the legal advice you're getting, then you hire another one for a different opinion. But you don't go against it.
No, I was going to blame my attorney.
Because I'm not bonded or insured or licensed for that. Anyway, just an update, guys. And I think it was a good step forward. It's just got stuck in the mud again. And if I got to press on the gas a little, I will.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Item number 5, Hughes Lumber Property Update. Paul mentioned it a little bit earlier, and what's going on it is happened March the 21st. The City of Trinidad did pass resolution number 1632, which authorizes the Urban Renewal Authority to to participate and assist the city with the sale of the Hughes Lumber property at 127 East Plum Street. Unfortunately, the resolution had an incorrect address on it. It does show 127 West Cedar. So I was in contact with City Clerk Audra Garrett. She will have a correcting resolution on the agenda for next week's meeting. That will be corrected.
So does that implicate the ballot measure they passed?
No.
Okay.
No. That it was there, and the legal
just in the
is still there. It was just something in the process of happening. So they've got a lot of when you have the so it has no problem with it. It's there, and as far as the agreement to buy, sell, and redevelop real estate, that will that too has been authorized and signed off by the mayor and approved and informed by City Attorney Les Downs. I, on behalf of Urban Renewal, Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, won't actually sign and date this until the correcting resolution has been done next Tuesday, whatever that date may be, the 18th. Then that will go forward. In the process, Paul Benedetti is researching and looking at the various aspects of this for any requirements that may be necessary, up to including the city, it's not the charter, but what is the document for all the, chapter 14?
Ordinance?
Yeah, that's in there, that applies so that he can put up, get everything ready for the RFP, which will go publicized twice in the local newspaper for developers or interested qualified developers and owners to purchase that property. So that is going forward. It's a matter of, and when he talked about simultaneous closings, if you'll see it within this contract for the sale of the property, it is listed in there that it's going to be a simultaneous closing. That we are doing this, we are going through the processes now on behalf of the City of Trinidad to get it sold. The day that that happens, it will have a title transfer, which in turn will be transferred then over to whatever, hopefully, a qualified buyer developer. Okay. So that's where it's at, and again, once he gets that, then it'll be ready to go to twice publication in a local newspaper as required by state statute. And so, if anybody knows of any qualified developers, let them know. When it hits it'll be going to a publication sometime in the near future. Date yet to be determined. Any questions on that? I did provide, it's got a lot of stuff to be said. Any questions? Item number 6, Americana Road Project. The only required signature to be affixed on pay request number 14 is by the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, the Chairman Urban Renewal Authority. The pay request involves a substantial amount of money, $449,531.67. It's all in the documents correctly, but any questions on that?
Sir.
That one's been on the table for quite a bit. I don't know for how much longer. I think they're nearing completion down there. Yeah. And I don't think we'll be seeing.
You still have a liaison following the project to see where they're at and all that, right?
Well, yeah, there's.
They have a person, yeah.
I don't know who that person is. That's why I have.
I don't know her name over.
Jenny
Jackson. Jenny Jackson. She watched everything on here, and they watched it from the construction side as well. So yeah, it's been monitored very, very closely. Item number 7, items for future work session discussion. Does anybody have any topics that they would like to have put on agenda for the May 11th meeting?
Do we need something on the agenda to work with the city in regards to coming up with a way of working with these properties, or is that something we just?
Well,
I'm not sure how we can doing this.
Can we just put those as updates? Update on.
We can do
we
that.
just talked about it, and an update on Cougar Canyon.
Keely, as Director of Development Services for the City of Trinidad, In that was included that she would be assisting TURA as a liaison and providing that information. So we will have, she's got open invitation, she will be made aware of everything that's going on. She will get full copies of our agenda, so she'll know where we're at with things. So it's just a matter of, yeah, we can, ask, that when she comes, that will be a matter of update. She thinks she's pretty well aware of what we're looking for as of tonight, or to begin with. We have a little bit more clarity tonight. So yeah, we can.
So it doesn't really need to be an agenda item, would it?
No, it's just a discussion.
An update from her, discussion from her, because she'll be here on our monthly meetings.
Okay.
Again, though, if you think of something that you would like on the agenda for the next month, get it to me in advance so I can get it. I do that agenda. I try to have it out and into Brittany's hand on Friday prior, so they can get out, have all the proper postings, and be in your hands in sufficient time to be able to do it. So this month was a little bit of an anomaly for a lot of different reasons. That's why you got it on Monday, but it still fits within the time frame that we are required to be posted by bylaw.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right. If we're done with there, and again, let me know if you have something prior to next month's meeting. That being the case, it is 7:04 p.m. Today is April the 13th, 2023. It is 7:04 p.m. We are entering our regular meeting. Item number 1 is roll call, please.
Bagley?
Here.
Hopper?
Here.
Hess?
Here.
Howlett?
Here.
Leone? Here.
Lopez?
Here.
Grego?
Yes, I hear. Item number 2, approval of the minutes from the March 2023 meeting. I did provide information, and Brittany provided information in advance for the minutes of the last meeting conducted on March the 9th. Motion to approve.
I found no issue with motion to approve.
I'll second.
There is a motion by Commissioner Howlett to approve with a second by Commissioner Cochran. Are there any questions, comments, corrections? Roll call.
Bagley?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yes.
Hess?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 3, acceptance of the financial report contained in your agenda packet. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Jeff Heck with a motion to approve. Second by?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howlett. Any questions, comments? Roll call.
Bagley?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yes.
Hess?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes, and as a side note, I should have mentioned earlier, you'll note that our year-to-date TIF revenue is only $3,808.
April 29th is right around the corner. That's the major
Let's see a little-
injection of.
Item number 4, consideration of bills. Item number 8, Paul Benedetti Legal Services for the month of March 2023. That invoice is $540. Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Bailey with the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Lopez with the second. With a motion and a second by Commissioner Lopez. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bagley?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yes.
Hess?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes.
Very pleased to be paying that bill. That was a good pickup for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Item number 4B, Purgatory Valley Construction for the Americana Road Project. That amount is $449,531.67. All signatures required by other parties are affixed to that pay request. That one will be affixed by the Urban Renewal Authority upon approval tonight.
Motion to approve the bill to Purgatory Valley Construction American Road Project for $449,531.67 with the chairman's signature.
I second that.
Commissioner Howlett with the motion to approve it, the second by Commissioner Leone. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cochran,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes,
Howard,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. Is there anyone in the audience, in the sitting audience, or anyone attending the meeting via go-to meetings or call-in that would like to address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? I'll ask for a second time. Is there anybody in the sitting audience or anybody on go-to meetings or call-in that would like to address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? And let the record reflect that there is no one that has indicated that they want to make an address or address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 6 is old business. There is not a record. Item number 7, new business, none this evening. Item number 8, report by executive director. We have no executive director, but I, as your chairman, who right now attend to business, all I have to say is I was present at the March 14, 2023 meeting conducted and facilitated by the Board of County Commissioners. One other thing I would like to do is I would like to thank Mr. Tom Murphy and the Trinidad Times TV for putting this information
Yes, sir.
on the YouTube. The meetings that are available, that is provided, it's an invaluable service that, because I have gotten calls by individuals in the community that have watched and are not here, but have been able to do it. So from my point of view, and I'm actually, when I have to get ready for these meetings, it's easier to go to YouTube than it is to actually use my recorded stuff on the telephone. So it does work out very well. So Tom, thank you for the service that you provide for all the public meetings that are available to everybody that cannot make meetings in person. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
As well as our condolences for your passing.
Yes.
Yes.
I would also like to thank Brittany Flores, who assists me on the monthly and from time to time when things have to occur for Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. She's an asset that, if not available, to get this out to us, gotta say, it would be pretty crippling. So, Brittany, thank you for taking care of us and correcting me when I need correction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, reports by commissioners. I will start with Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. This is an old report, okay? Now, I put this on the side because we've had just bigger fish to kind of fry. But at one of the last DCI meetings, they passed out some of these books. And it's Recast Your City, How to Save Your Downtown with Small-Scale Manufacturing. So we've got a couple of things on the burner here, and we're looking at small properties and residential areas. We're talking again about Cougar Canyon with the leadership of the county. I really want to just let you know, I read this once, but it was months ago, and I really tried. When I was there, I told Ed, I told the chairman, hey, let me grab that, let me run with that ball for a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to go through this again and try and map it to where some of the things we're doing, and then have more report, and maybe put this on a workshop agenda. But what a lot of TURAs are doing, a lot of urban renewal authorities are doing, is they're actually trying to not only just revitalize the building, but revitalize the economy maybe that building used to have. And small scale manufacturing is one of the ways they're doing it. And so I just wanted to put this back on your radar. We have somebody now that we can interface with, which we, again, didn't have before. And so Keely, I would like to, want to look at this, I'll hand it off to you, and then start looking at it. I know at the last city council meeting, there really was a call to, what can we do to increase the number of businesses that are serving us here in the city and the county? So I think this is one of those kind of incubator ideas. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Cochran?
I have nothing.
Mr. Morris?
I have nothing this evening. For first.
Really?
Was you want to update on the fire, but I did that earlier.
Mr. Heck?
nothing.
Mr. Leone?
No.
I actually do. I would like to just invite the board
just to, if you possibly get over by next week, our next work session, we're fixing up these houses, and we have a kind of before and after, and we don't usually have that opportunity. You can kind of see what we've got going on, and also what we did finish up. And I just want to invite everybody to come by. And we're there in the afternoon. So it's 920 Stonewall Avenue. That's the one we're working on currently.
And what's the date, June?
Just next week, so the 21st would be the next Friday. And we're there in the afternoons from 1 to 5. And, you know, and you can kind of see, and 926 is when we finished. And you can kind of see, these are properties that we're going to be looking at. Or you know, maybe, they were pretty bad. And you can kind of see. But, and then we can, you know, it gives me a little bit of insight.
You finished 920?
926. We're working on 920 right now.
You sold 926, didn't you?
926 is the one that's finished, and 920 is the one we're working on.
Did the other one get sold? Because I got to see that one.
Yes, that's the same one. They have somewhere around 18 people that have expressed interest in buying it.
So you're inviting us to 920?
To 920. But you can see either or.
Do we need a hard hat?
Yeah, we'll provide
Okay.
one for you.
A pink one?
Actually, we do have people. So you're more than welcome to wear one. I think it would be, you look stunning. So.
Are these students working on this?
I'm sorry?
Are these students working on these projects?
Yes, students.
It's a great program.
Yeah. And so, but we've talked now. We're kind of in a lane here where you can kind of see how maybe this can integrate into what we've been talking about if Paul thinks it's a good idea. Okay, awesome. And I just want to invite you. And we're there in the afternoon, so if you want to stop by, you know, like I said, from 1 to 5, we're in the classroom in the morning from 8 to 12. So that's what we're going over some stuff. So, but anyway, this session will end, and then we'll be in summer school stuff. So we'll be, you know, at the end of May, we'll have another session starting up. But this one, I just thought maybe while we're there, or if you're driving by, you know, come by and check it out and just see what we're doing, because it could apply to what we're doing, and that's
How nice would it be if it could?
we don't know.
Okay.
But I'm just saying,
be
we
nice.
haven't put that out there, and that's why.
So how much do I have to lobby the Attorney General for more funding for
There
it?
you go.
You know what? You
There
come
you go,
by
Randy.
earlier. You can stay from 1 to 5, and we'll have that discussion, because I could give you.
You can wear the pink cap.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you. That's all.
That concludes Commissioner reports. Item number 10, adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great job, all.
If there are no dissenting votes, we will call this meeting adjourned at 7:16.